Hey there, it's Tanya here, and I'm super excited because we are welcoming you to yet another weekly episode of our live stream called Get Noticed with Video Live. So, thank you so much for watching. Let me make sure that we get ourselves together here and turn off our phones and all that other stuff because I want to spend some time focused on you and on the topic that we're going to talk about this evening. So, first of all, again, let me welcome you to our weekly live stream. We go live every week. We're switching over to Thursdays in preparation for 2021. And what we talk about is how to simplify live and on-camera video strategies for service providers. And the purpose of this is because we want you to be able to serve more people and get your message out to the world. So here we go. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about video content and how to protect it. If you're wondering, how do I make sure that I secure my content, all the stuff that I'm putting the time and effort and purpose into creating, how do I ensure that it is secure? And so I'm going to talk about it on 3 different levels, and we'll make sure that we cover some tips for you along with answering your questions. But again, let me welcome you from whatever platform you are watching us from. Let me ask you this. If you are interested in tonight's topic and you love what we share, I want to ask that you please follow, like, subscribe, and share with a friend if you see some information that you think you might find helpful or they might find helpful later on. All right. So I'm going to get us introduced through a really short video. And while I do that, why don't you say hello and let me know where you're from? I see a couple of comments in here, so I definitely have to reach out to my amazing VIP community in just a second. So I will be right back. We'll welcome all of you, including our VIP community, and then we'll dive into the topic of video protection. How do you protect the content that you're creating through your videos? All righty, folks, I'll see you right back in just a second. Hey. And I see some folks that are joining in. Awesome. Miss Sonia, it's wonderful to see you as always, my friend, my fellow Wonder Woman love. And Miss Lucy Hoger, it's beautiful to see you here as well. Montel, hello from Philly. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I said that wrong, please correct me in the comments because I want to acknowledge you. And then we also have someone from Angela, North Carolina, or it is Angela from North Carolina. Okay. If I can't see your face in the little profile shot, you may be in my group, my Facebook group or community at Video VIPs. I'm going to share how you can get access to that. So if you're a member of our Video VIPs community and you're watching from inside there, if this is your first time and you're a newbie, type in #newbie. But what you'll want to do is to make sure that you give StreamYard, that's the platform I use for live streaming, StreamYard.com/Facebook. Go to that site and just give them permission to show your face and name so I can acknowledge you on a personal level. That's the one thing I absolutely adore about getting to do live stream videos with you is that we can really connect. Like I'm answering your questions and you're giving me advice too at times on some of this stuff. We get to interact and engage. So I appreciate that so much. Just a couple of really quick announcements before we dive into the content. And again, tonight we're going to talk about 3 tips to help you to protect your video content. One of the things that I want to share with you is that this weekend on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central, I believe it is, we're going to be hosting a StreamYard tutorial. So if you want to get information on how to set up your StreamYard, how to find all the shortcuts, the easy tips and tricks so that you don't have to suffer through figuring it all out on your own, just go to my website, getnoticedwithvideo.com, and click on the events tab. And there you'll get access to the link to actually join the webinar on Saturday morning. I would like to show off my beautiful new StreamYard cup that came in. Very cute. And then I also received this week my really cool StreamYard t-shirt, which I will probably be teaching in because I just think it's pretty awesome. So I love these guys. I love the platform that they've created for us to be able to engage with each other. But here's the question that you have, and this is why you're here tonight. The question is, so when I create this awesome on-camera video content, how do I make sure that it's protected? So I want to talk a little bit about this on 3 levels. And what I'll do is I'm going to pull up a little mind map tonight. We're going to do kind of like a little miniature class, but I want to make sure that you understand we're not going to speak to this from a legal or attorney level because I am not an attorney. So one thing I'm going to share with you is to make sure if you are in business for yourself, that you have access to all the professionals in those spaces. And specifically when it comes to any type of legal issues as it relates to your content and to your brand in general, you want to make sure you have somebody on your side that is going to help you, right, to do the things that you need to do. Now, I just switched over to a different mind map for some reason. So let me try to pull this back up again. All right, here we go. So here's the thing. No, we do not want to save. We do not want to save. We just want to open. Okay, let me pull it up for you. And then we're going to walk through this because, again, 3 ways to protect your video content. But we're going to speak to this on a really, if you had 3 levels, this is level 1. Meaning I want you to think of it from a common sense standpoint and from a strategy standpoint. And that's typically what I talk about anyway, is strategies and how to make them easy so that you can adopt them and take action on these things as soon as possible. Like after you get off of this video and finish watching, you're going to probably enact 1, 2, maybe even all 3 of the tips that I'm going to share with you. Okay, deal? All right. And if you do have questions, definitely leave those in the comments. I definitely want to reach out and say hello to my VIP community. The folks that are in my VIP group are incredible human beings. They are the folks that are engaging and using this stuff on the daily to create amazing video shows, live stream series, all kinds of stuff. So shout out to all of you. And to those of you who are new this week, I want to give you a shout out too. So let me share my screen real quick and let's do this. There's a couple of things going on I'm noticing here. And I will pull up the window and we will make sure that we remove one of those banners here. All right, so here's what I want to share with you. 3 ways to protect your video content. And I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit more and we'll remove this. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I like to stay a little bit organized when I start talking about things of this nature. And I want to make sure that you really, really get what I'm about to share. So notice on screen, and I'll blow it up a little bit more here in just a second. Let's see, that might be too big. But what we're going to talk about are 3 different angles for protecting your video content. And really, if you think about this, this can apply to almost any content that you have that you're creating and putting out on your social media platforms. So be thinking with me about what you're creating even beyond video. What else are you putting together that is your intellectual property? Okay. Again, that's a legal term, but we're going to say that I'm giving you the common sense version of how to make sure that you're keeping track of your own stuff. So there's 3 different angles. Good evening, Marcia and Pat. Those are ladies, wonderful ladies from our VIP community. We have 3 different angles we're going to look at. One is ownership, one is access, and one is retention. So let me kind of blow this up a little bit for you. So ownership, access, and retention. Those are the angles that we're going to talk a little bit about as far as protecting your video content. So the first thing I want to talk about is ownership. When you think about ownership of your content, this is your property. Good evening, Venus. This is your property. When you create a video, by nature of the fact that you're creating that video, the minute you click record and you put yourself out there, and especially when it comes to live streaming, that is your content. But one of the things you have to definitely consider and think about is the fact that you also are subject, in cases of terms of use, you're subject to the rules that have been set by the platform for what you are broadcasting or on what you're broadcasting. So YouTube, Facebook, wherever it may be that you're putting yourself out there, you want to be somewhat, at least somewhat familiar with what it means to put your content on these spaces, meaning in their contracts, in their terms of use, there may be some content or some words rather that say they have some joint ownership or they can do whatever they want with the content that you put on their spaces, right? Now, for the most part, I would say with Facebook and YouTube, that's not going to be an issue because you created it. It's obvious that you put it on your group, on your page, wherever it is you posted it. But especially if you're looking at newer platforms, you want to be mindful and at least take a look at the terms of use to understand what it really means to own your content. And you also want to be thinking about, how do I ensure that I get to keep the rights to my stuff? So you'll see that I've actually shared 2 tips here that I want you to think through just from a strategic standpoint. Again, I'm not going to profess or pretend to be an attorney. So if you really, really have some considerations and concern about trademarks, copyright, all of those things, I have included a link to a particular website that has a copywriting article about video. So I'll make sure that I add this to the description when we get done with this video tonight, but it's on dacast.com, DACAST.com. Let me see if I can blow that up a little bit more without going too far. We'll just do 300, and I'm going to move this over here because I really want you to see this if you can. Let's see if we can drag that. It's not going to let me. So that's okay. It'll be right there. Okay. If you can see that, I'm going to copy and paste and put that into the description so you'll have it. But this is a really excellent article for you to read to understand how to copyright a video if you feel like you need to go that far. Now, for the most part, like with every video that I do every week, I'm not doing that. But there may be some videos that you create that are specifically about a workshop or a specific system or a process that you use. And what you don't want is for someone else to take that content and then claim it to be theirs. Let me give you an example of how this can happen, because you might think, hey, nobody's ever going to do that to me because my stuff's not really out there. It's not that visible, or I'm not yet to the level I, will be, in 5 or 10 years or whatever. I can tell you when I first started blogging, there was a woman who was going to my blog, going to my website and literally copying and pasting my articles word for word into her own blog. She was not adding my name or credit or a link back to my stuff. She had her name at the very bottom of it. And it wasn't even clear that that was happening to me until one of my clients actually happened to see her stuff and was like, this really looks like something I read on Tanya's site. So if you don't think people will copy your content and take it, trust me, they will. So if there's something that's that important enough that you created in your video, that you want to make sure that you own the rights to that intellectual property and the systems and processes and steps that you shared, you want to probably investigate at least and research, maybe even talk to an attorney about copywriting your video. The other thing that you can do on a much more basic level is when you create these videos, notice how I have my logo at the top and I've got my name and everything is in. So whenever I create video snippets, even short clips of my videos, it's going to have my stuff all over it. It's going to have my brand on it. So there's no mistaking who I am, what my company is, and where I'm sharing from. So be thinking in terms of how can you make sure that you have proper rights to the ownership of your content. And if it's really, really, really important and critical and essential content that you've created for your business, look into talking to an attorney about the proper documentation. So copywriting, trademarking, all of those things. All right, next, here's what I want to do. Let's see if we can kind of center this a little bit. We'll do a fit. I'm going to talk a little bit about access. So ownership was the first step. Let's dive into access, because access means How do I make sure I control access to my videos? So this is another issue that pops up when it comes to protecting your content. So let me see if I can blow that up just a little bit more. When we talk about access, what we're talking about is, let's say you've created some type of video content and it's specifically going to be for people in your courses that are paid courses, or maybe you have a membership program or something where people have to do something in exchange for getting access to that video content, right? Well, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have a bunch of people that have paid for access to your videos that you've created, maybe even to your live stream if you're doing paid lives. And at some point, I'm hearing that there are going to be some monetization options that will be more broad for people who have groups, right? So when you do that, what you don't want is for people to be able to access that content for free if they haven't met the requirements or the criteria. So they haven't paid for it, right? So then you're going to have your group over here that's ticked off because I just paid to get access to this content, but then Joe Blow over here has gotten access to it for free. So you want to be mindful of the aspect of access to your videos in those situations. But how do you go about controlling the access and protecting access to your videos for those courses or membership sites and those other things? Now, a lot of people on a very basic level tend to just say, hey, I'll just put my video out on YouTube. And if you don't know this is something that's important for you to know. But when you create a video and you put it on YouTube, you have a couple of different options for security of your YouTube video. And one of the options that I've used most frequently in my career in marketing has been the unlisted security option. Why? Because when you select unlisted as the privacy setting for a video, what you're then basically telling YouTube is, unless the person has a direct link that I've shared with them or that they somehow have gotten from somewhere else, unless they have that exact link, they can't view this video. They won't be able to find it because it's not coming up in search. Now, there's also another way that you can do this. You can make your videos private, but I wouldn't suggest that because, and maybe they even call it secret now, that may have changed. But if you go to the other end of the spectrum and you really lock it down and only give access to people whose email you've given it to, given access to, that gets to be really cumbersome and hard to manage. So I would not really recommend using that. YouTube Unlisted is probably sufficient for you if you're at that stage right now where you're like, I'm really not ready to pay for a platform that's going to host my videos for a fee. Okay. So YouTube Unlisted, if you are hosting your videos on YouTube for free, you can put them in unlisted mode and only embed them into your courses, your programs, your membership site, right? And that way, because they're embedded, you've directly given that space inside your course access to view the video. So anybody who's inside that space, inside your membership area, can view the course, or anyone who has that direct link to the video can view it, but nobody else will find it through a search process. Okay. So that's one way, but it's not exactly the best way because people do figure out these things. They do figure out these links, and sometimes they still just show up, right, in different places where you didn't anticipate they would be. So just hosting, if you're worried about access to videos, just hosting it on YouTube with an unlisted status is probably not going to be the ideal and the best way, but it is a simple way to do this. And it is, I'll admit, a way that I did it for a long time. But there's another way, and it does require that you have an account. Okay. So if you do have questions, feel free to put those into the comments. But another way that you can go about doing this is if you are using Vimeo. Okay. So Vimeo is one. I'm going to give you another one in just a second. Vimeo is Vimeo. If you can see that there, it's the second little sub branch. Okay. So Vimeo is a good option for putting your video content into playlists or folders, right? So what I do right now in this moment, I actually have a premium account with Vimeo. And you want to be sure of something. You want to make sure that you have purchased, you've invested in the type of account where you can actually host commercial or business videos. Why is this important? Because they have a lower level. It's something like 20 something dollars a month. And it's a lower paying level in Vimeo. And you're thinking, oh, I'll just use this. But in the fine print, in the plan, you want to read and make sure that it is the plan that you can use for business specific or commercial videos. Because I personally, a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when I first started using Vimeo, I didn't realize it because I wasn't really good about reading that kind of stuff. Again, real transparent. And I got contacted by Vimeo and they were like, we about to shut you down because you're using videos on our site and sharing them for business purposes, for commercial reasons, but you have not upgraded to the proper plan. So I only say that to say, make sure that if you're going to use a site like Vimeo or other similar platforms to store your video content, so that people can access it for a fee or, because you are really trying to lock it down. If you do that, you want to make sure you have invested in the right plan that is designed for commercial purposes, for business purposes, because you're doing transactions. Okay. You're selling courses or programs and you're storing your videos and sharing your videos as part of your business. Okay. So Vimeo is another option. So that's next level. If you're not doing YouTube unlisted or you want a little bit more security around it, Vimeo is a great way to do that. The other thing I like about Vimeo for storing videos is that, you know how at the end of a YouTube video, because you don't have a lot of control over what shows up in the YouTubes, right? When you share in a YouTube video, at the end, it takes them to somewhere else. Like there's a whole bunch of other videos that probably are unrelated to what you're even talking about. Yeah, I don't like that. So Vimeo gives you an option at the end of the viewing of the video to tell people where to go or to give them a what's next, a call to action, or to take them to a specific video or video playlist that you want to drive them to. YouTube Unlisted doesn't do that because, again, it's a free option. So they can kind of do what they want as far as putting ads and other types of things, sending people to other videos that they think are related to the topic you talked about. The last and third one I'll give you as far as a tool controlling access and protecting the access to your video content is called Spotlighter. So let me pull that up so you can see how it's written. There is not an E intentionally. So it's Spotlight R. Okay. Now, Spotlighter is another platform it's not quite like Vimeo. It's not going to have the same type of options, but it will give you the ability to lock down secure access to your different videos. It used to be called VOO Player, VOO, but then there was a little bit of some dissension going on amongst the co-founders, and Spotlighter ended up taking over. So one of the original co-founders took all his stuff and put it under Spotlighter instead of VOO Player. It is a good tool and that they have some really reasonable pricing plans. So you want to take a look at that. But again, it's not going to have all the fun options, and it's not, to me, as user-friendly as Vimeo is. So access-wise, they have a lot of similarities, but I think I've kind of given you enough probably overload information on use of YouTube Unlisted or Vimeo. Those really would be the two that I would look at from an access standpoint if you're trying to store your video courses in a place where people can access those as part of your course or program. The other thing that's good about those two that I've shared with you, YouTube and Vimeo, is that they're so popular. Usually they're going to pop up in the integrations options for different course platforms. So I use Teachable, for example. Teachable does integrate with Vimeo and YouTube. So I can share the codes and I can pull over those videos pretty easily from those two spaces. And most of the course platforms, they call them learning management systems or LMSs, Teachable, Maestro, LearnDash, most of them will operate really well with your content on either YouTube Unlisted or Vimeo. Okay, so I know I'm talking a lot more tech tonight than I normally do, but I want to make sure that you have this information because I feel like it's another one of those things that's a strategy thing that sometimes we don't think through. So again, the 3 things we're talking about tonight are: how do I make sure I keep ownership, access, and retention? How do I retain my own video content? As I'm talking through this and talking specifically about video, I want you to also be thinking about how this might apply to other types of social media content that you're creating. How are you ensuring that your content is your own? Do you have watermarks on your social media posts so that when people reshare them, they know where they came from? That used to be an issue for me too. I create these amazing graphic designs and social media posts, and I'd see them all over the place, but there was no direct connection back to the source. So if it's business related, if your purpose and the call to action for your content is to drive people to a particular action or to know you, to help you to brand, think about ways that you can do that subtly. It doesn't have to be a big glaring banner across everything, but how can you do that in a subtle way? And then the access question we've talked about at great length too. So let's talk about retention. How can I retain my own video content? I'm going to blow that up real quick here so you can see what I'm saying. Retention. So I've given you a couple of different options here for retention of your video content. And what I mean by that is, how do you keep track of it so you can go find it later on? So I've shared with some of you, especially those of you who have been in a few of my courses, that one of the things that is important to me is that after I do my live stream, I have a whole set of things that I do. And one of the very first things that I do, and I encourage you to do too, is to save that video. Because I'm doing it here in StreamYard, right? But I want a copy. I want a copy of my own content so that I can use that and refer to it at a later point. Sure, it's being broadcast on Facebook. It's being broadcast on YouTube. But what if either one of those platforms one day decides that they don't like my content? They don't want it there. So they take it down. They don't have to tell me why they took it down. They just take it down. And trust, this has happened. And I don't do spammy stuff, and I don't do a bunch of, sales pitches all the time. They took down an interview that I'd done with another marketer where we were giving away a lot of really good nuggets. And to this day, I still don't know why they took that down. Maybe somebody complained, but I don't know what they complained about. So I'm saying to you, in order to protect yourself and to make sure that you always have a copy of your content, your property that you created, you took the time and energy to create. So keep a copy of it. So what I do in StreamYard is I instantly, after we're done here, I go into StreamYard and I say, download a copy. And where do I keep it? I retain them inside of a folder. For me, it's Google Drive. Some of you may use Dropbox. Others of you may use OneDrive. There's any number of places that you can retain your content. Personally, I use Google Drive because I have G Suite, all Google products, which was not a good thing the other day when they went down. But I keep it all organized in folders, right? And so for my 2020 Facebook Lives, I have a folder that says Facebook Lives 2020, and then I have a videos folder. I also download the audio version. So I have an audios folder. I also create a transcript. So I have a transcript folder. All 3 of those subfolders are inside of my Facebook Lives 2020 folder. Okay, so you get where I'm going with this? So that way, when I am ready to go back and pull videos to use for other purposes, or if it happens to get taken down for some reason, I have a copy of the property that I've created, right? So the only other one I would share with you is called Publicio, Publitio. Let me blow this up so you can kind of see that. Hopefully you can see it. I know it's a little tiny. If you want to try it out, the website is, here's my link. It's tanya.click/Publicio. Publitio, Publicio. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this just so you know why I'm even suggesting this as a retention option. And it's also going to fit the bill of that access option in some ways, although not as good as Vimeo and YouTube to me, right? Because it just doesn't integrate with everything like those two do. The reason for Publicio being on this list for retention is because they have a WordPress plugin. So I use this in my WordPress to store and house my video content that is on my website. Why? Because for one thing, that keeps my website from loading super slow because everything is hosted on the Publicio platform. Okay, so if I created videos that are not part of YouTube, Facebook, etc., but they're like my About Me video and that kind of thing, it's in Publicio because it's acting as a host for my content off of my WordPress site. Although it's broadcasting into my WordPress site, it's not slowing it down and taking up a lot of speed. When people come to your website, especially if you have WordPress or anything else really, you need it to be fast. Especially right now, you need it to be mobile friendly and you need your site to be fast. If it's not, people will leave. So it's important to me to not clog up my speed by having a bunch of really heavy files. So Publicio allows me to retain and keep certain types of videos in their space, but still through the plugin, it looks like it's coming from inside of my WordPress, right? And I know I'm kind of giving really low technical descriptions for something that's probably way higher tech than you or I even know. But the point being, I like that I can use their links and their embeds and all kinds of other stuff. They're hosting somewhere else in a cloud, and it's not bogging down my WordPress website and making it slow. Okay. So if you want to test it out and get a little more information on what they do, definitely go ahead and visit that site. But you could simply, for retention, just to keep a storage copy of your video content, you can simply use Dropbox or Google Drive, and you'll be good to go. So again, and Marcia has Publicio, and Marcia is a web designer. She knows all the ins and outs of the techie stuff. So she may even be able to answer some questions in our VIP community about that, and to share some thoughts about what's good, what's not so good, etc. All right. Again, this one was kind of a techie, a soft, but still techie version of our weekly episodes. I know we talk a lot about strategy and we talk about how to simplify what you're doing. This may not have felt as simple, but I hope I made it a little easier for you to think about those three things. Again, ownership, access, and retention. How am I making sure that as I create video content, that I know where to find it, that I can get to it when I need to, that I keep a copy, and that my rights aren't being violated in some way, especially for those of you who have really high value, high quality content in your videos where you're teaching or doing a webinar or something to that effect. And you feel like, you know what, this is going to be part of an ongoing paid program that I'm using. And therefore I want to make sure that I have it, the copyright for the content I'm sharing or for the video itself. So there are ways to do that. Again, I'll make sure to share that Dacast, D-A-C-A-S-T is what I'm saying, the Dacast.com article, because it's a good, quick read for you that will give you some thoughts about that too. Okay, I'm looking to see if I see any questions. Can you explain one more time how Teachable interacts with Vimeo or YouTube, please? Yes, I can, Lucy. Thank you for the question. And let me say hello to my cousin, Julian. It's beautiful to see you, sir. Michelle, Angelica, all of you. All right. So Lucy, let me answer your question. Can you explain once more how? So here's the thing with Teachable. And I don't want to go too deep in the weeds, so I may catch you offline, Lucy. But what I'll say is this. Inside of Teachable, and really I just use them, but there could be any course platform. So Maestro is another platform that I've used. LearnDash is another platform that I've used. Thinkific is a platform. So all of these learning management system or platforms, right? They have ways that they are able to pull your video content in so that as people are watching the lessons or going through the course, they can see your videos. So, excuse me, two things. In Teachable, the easiest way really is to simply upload your video into their platform, into Teachable. But, excuse me, they have some size limitations. So unless you are in the practice and habit of compressing your videos, which is a whole nother episode that we could do, unless you're in the habit of resizing and making sure that your videos are compact enough, you may decide, you know what, I don't want to worry about size limitations in Teachable. Instead, what I'd like to do is I just want to use what I'm already storing over in YouTube or in Vimeo. So what you're going to do if you're in Vimeo, for instance, is you will pull what's called the embed code. Okay. So when you go into Vimeo and you do share to share your video, and I probably could pull up my account to show you what this looks like. When you share from your video, it's going to give you the option to either share the link or you can share the code. So it's going to pull all these like really crazy codes and letters, alphanumeric characters. You can copy that and paste that into code inside of Teachable. Now, why would you want to do that? When would you do that? Instead of just uploading your video directly to Teachable? One thing that I found is that in Vimeo, I can create chapters. I can't do this in Teachable, but in Vimeo, I can say, okay, so I created this 30-minute video for lesson 1. And at the 5-minute mark, chapter 2, within that 30-minute video, I'm talking about this specific topic. 10 minutes later, I'm talking about another. So you can bookmark throughout your video in Vimeo. Say that 3 times fast. You can bookmark and create little chapters so that then that gives your viewer a different experience, because now you can create kind of like a little table of contents inside the lesson and say, okay, if you come back to watch the replay for this video and you look at, this bookmark at the 10-minute and 13-second mark, you'll find that I'm talking about this part of the lesson, right? So it's just another way to give your users, your viewers, your students, another type of experience on a different level. Again, that's not simple, and I like to simplify things, but that is an option. There are some things that you can do with a Vimeo video inside of Teachable that you can't if you're just uploading the straight video, okay? But you do have options. Yes, Angelica, I love it. So definitely check out Vimeo. And I can share my link too. When I share the description, I'll do that as well for all of these things. I try to remember to come back and do that. And sometimes I'm a little late, but I'll make sure I do it. What other questions? Let's see. And yeah, Marcia, I might tap you to get your thoughts on Publicio. I've been using it for a little while now, and I do like it for the purpose of speeding up my website because it stores not only videos, but images too. So I'm not hosting my images inside of WordPress and slowing that thing down. If people go to your website, your WordPress site, and they're like, man, it's still loading 5 minutes later, they're not there anymore. They're like, okay, I'm going to the next website. So they needed to come up pretty quickly. And images and videos are the biggest thing. They're the biggest offender of speed when it comes to your site. You're so welcome. And I can definitely, if there's other questions you have on that, Lucy, let me know and I can answer that offline too. All righty. Well, folks, I think that we have talked about everything we can as it relates to protecting your video content. I appreciate you always coming and watching and joining in. You're so welcome, Miss Sonia. It's good to see you. If you do have questions about protecting your content, or you have ideas and comments and things you want to share and talk about inside the group, definitely join me at the Video VIPs group in Facebook. I'll make sure to put that up again. If you're interested in learning more about StreamYard, one of the things I would highly encourage you to do is to catch me for the next StreamYard tutorial, which is this weekend on our site at getnoticedwithvideo.com. And then also, in order for you to really benefit from the tutorial, you want to have access to StreamYard. So go to tanya.click/StreamYard and get your free account so you can test it out for yourself and have everything, flowing and going in motion the way that you want it to for your videos, for your live streams. I am excited about 2021 and our first 2021 Let's Go Live challenge. It's our 5-day challenge that everybody loves to do. I'm doing some new and exciting things with that next year. So definitely be part of our group, know when it's coming, get in on the bandwagon. I'm so excited about so many things happening. But if you're struggling with how to use video marketing and how to create content using video to market yourself and your business and reach more people, this is where you need to be. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and join our community. I want to meet you. All right, everybody. And yes, have a wonderful holiday and Merry Christmas back to you, Miss Lucy. I appreciate all of you so much. And I just pray that you have an amazing weekend and that you stay safe and that you and your family are abundantly blessed. We'll see you next time.